Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Witchy Week Ahead with me, your host, Michelle Rose Boxley. So, thank you so much to everybody who reached out last week and let me know how much you enjoyed the first episode of this new series. Um, I have been excitedly prepping for this week's content, and I'm in a very different setting today. So, this is the um, kitchen at my beautiful studio in Claverley in Shropshire. And this is one of my favourite little corners of the studio. There's lots of areas that I love within the studio space, but I am particularly pleased with this little section here because it looks incredibly witchy. Lots of herbs drying, lots of bowls of incense and crystals, and then my grimoire, which I have on display here. So this isn't my personal grimoire for my magic, but it is my herb grimoire. So this is one of the only spreads that I actually have finished within the book because it takes me a very, very long time. But this is the dandelion spread. And one of the reasons it takes so long is because of the hand illustrations that I do in gouache, and I love working with gouache, but they take a long time. So welcome to this week ahead. We are working with the energy of the waning moon. So tomorrow, Tuesday, we will have the final quarter moon. And that is always that marker when we see that in the sky, when we see that the moon is half illuminated, it is a reminder that the dark moon is coming. It's a reminder to do our cleansing and releasing practices. And it's a reminder that that low energy time of the lunar cycle is approaching. This doesn't impact us as much in the summer as it does in the winter. Tracking the dark moon in winter is really beneficial because it is likely that our energy levels will be even more impacted because of course we have that lack of daylight that we have in the winter time, and then in the dark moon we're also lacking the moonlight in the evening as well. So it doesn't impact us as much in terms of our energy levels as it does in the winter time. But I actually like to reframe that in the summer and use the moon as my ally in the summer. So if we feel, and I did a podcast about this recently about the importance of the dark moon in high summer. So you might like to have a listen to that. That's the Lunar Temple podcast. I'll pop the link below. But this idea that we can stay very, very much in the young energy of the summer. It's really easy to just keep going in the summer evenings because it's still light, it's still bright, it's still warm. And it's really difficult to draw a line under the day and say, okay, the doing part of my day is now complete. And now this is my time to receive, to rest, to reflect. And that kind of yin lunar energy can really fall by the wayside at this time of year. So the dark moon can really come in and support us in getting this cyclical balance. So that final quarter moon, when we see that, we are reminded, okay, I'm a week away now from the dark moon. And so what am I doing in my diary? How am I creating space and time to connect to that time? Magically speaking, the dark moon is a really powerful time for practices such as releasing practices, for working safely with dark goddesses such as Hecate, the Morgan Le Fay. A lot of these goddesses, their power time, if you like, is the dark moon. There's lots of rituals to be done that can be done with goddesses like Hecate, and her time is the dark moon time. And we're going to be exploring working with Hecate in our witch school that we're beginning in September. So I'm really looking forward to working with her a little bit more closely with people and connecting people to her many different aspects and faces. as well. So with the quality of this week, I refer to this as lunar autumn. So this phase when we are coming down from the full moon, which we had last week, that beautiful full moon in Capricorn, and we're now working with the waning, the releasing, the autumnal quality of this time. One thing that I don't do in my own practice, and one thing that I don't teach either, is releasing or predominantly releasing with the full moon. Magically speaking, energetically speaking, cyclically speaking, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me to do this. So if we're working with an intention for the moon cycle, we've created an intention, perhaps our intention has been around creativity. And we get to the full moon 2 weeks later, only 2 weeks later. And we're then told, we have a lot of information that arrives around the full moon time, and we are told to release. There's a lot of this, let go of what no longer serves you, release what no longer serves you, release what's not working. Well, we've only had 2 weeks to connect with our intention. And the full moon is the height and the peak of the cycle. It is the equivalent of the summer solstice. It is full bloom. It is full expression. It is the time to be visible, to be seen, to shine. It is a time to celebrate, and it is a time to embody. So to release at the peak of the cycle, to release at the time where you could be really embodying your intention makes no sense to me. So if my intention was around creativity, I would be working on those 3 days around the full moon to embody my intention. So I would be thinking to myself, with all this beautiful full moon energy, I'm going to get all my paints out. I know that I don't sleep very well around the full moon, so I'm going to get the canvases out, or I'm going to do my grimoire, or whatever it is, but really utilizing the high energy of the full moon and enjoying. Isn't it interesting that we have skipped out of so many of the cycles? I see this all the time with how cyclical living is taught. We miss out the part where we get to actually enjoy, and we get to actually receive, and we get to celebrate, and we get to be proud. So I would instead think less about releasing at the full moon and think more about stepping into the fullness of your intention, whatever your intention was, and enjoying it, celebrating it. It would be as ridiculous as me spending the time and energy that I have spent this year cultivating my beautiful sweet pea flowers that are my favorite, getting to the point where they have come into flower, and then just pulling the whole lot out and putting it in the green bin. We wouldn't do that. We are so excited, aren't we, when we have a plant, we have flowers that come into bloom. And I know for me, it's one of my favorite things to do is to go and cut the sweet peas and put them in vases and smell the beautiful smell and look at the gorgeous colors of them. There's a sense of enjoyment, there's a sense of receiving, there's a sense of being in wonder and awe of that I have received. So just sitting with that and see how that feels to you. But for me personally, and as I said, how I like to encourage people is to save your releasing practices for the waning moon. The energy of the waning moon lends itself to release, just like the trees in autumn, letting go, everything starting to go back into the earth, going back into the ground. This is that quality. So one of the things that I like to use for the waning moon time is sacred smoke. So a really simple practice that I use is just resin, frankincense resin. Now, I spoke last week about how I don't use the term or the practices of smudging, and I don't use white sage. If you want to go back and look at that video, you can. And there's lots of other things that we can use. And frankincense resin is really effective for releasing, for cleansing a space, but also for lifting the energy, the frequency of a space as well. So I tend to ground my resin up into more of a powder, and then it creates a lot of smoke as well, which is really effective for going around your environment, your home, wherever you're wanting to cleanse. So smoking your environment, smoking yourself during the waning moon can be really, really effective. We just always want to make sure that if we have done a releasing practice, that we then replace the energy. This is another thing that kind of gets lost a little bit sometimes if we are emphasizing a lot of releasing, cleansing practices, but then we're not intentionally resetting the space. Essentially, we're just clearing the space for the same energy to come back in again. So we want to be really clear if we are releasing with the waning moon, we are cleansing our environment, we then want to replace that energy with something. So it could be something like we've cleansed all our rooms, we're aware that the dark moon is coming, it's that liminal space, it's that maybe slightly thin time. We can then reset the energy by placing crystals in that room. Okay, I'm programming this crystal to protect. I'm programming this crystal to keep me grounded during this time. Or we light a candle, or we bring some flowers into the room, and we say, may I be centered during this waning moon time? May I be connected to joy, or may I be present? May I be open to receive messages? Yes. So whenever we release, we have to replace. Best magical advice I certainly was ever given by my teacher, Kimberly of Mother House of the Goddess. And I pass this on to as many people as I can, because people get really excited, I think, about cleansing, releasing practices, and we forget about that really important energetic work to replace intentionally how we want to reset the energy. So waning moon, like lunar autumn. So it's that chance to start to slow down, to start to reflect a little bit on how the moon cycle has been. And we may have had some quite big things happen within the container of that moon cycle. We might have had a revelation about something. We might have had conflict in a relationship. We might have had some guidance from Goddess, from the divine, from oracles, from our animal allies. And so this is the time to become less engaged with the outside world and then start to shift our awareness back to the inside world, so that we're starting to get clear on where we want to head to next. So as the new moon arrives, we want the sense of, I've really looked back on this moon cycle, and this is what it has taught me. This is how it's challenged me. This is what I don't want to take with me into the next cycle. That is all really clear in the waning moon. But if we miss the waning moon time, we're not receiving the intuition, the insights, the information that we can gather at this time to inform the next part of our journey. So this little bit of time now between tomorrow's waning final quarter moon. I'm losing my words. Maybe I've put too much smoke on. This period between tomorrow's final quarter moon and the next week is that portal of time to think about connecting to the archetype of the enchantress. This is the archetype that rules autumn and the waning phase of the moon. So we're starting to prioritize our reflective time, our quiet time, time to really sit and feel into things, to process our emotions. And it is a wonderful time to look at your cards as well. And you can ask a series of questions to help you as well. So, for example, you can ask your deck of cards, what is my lesson from this moon cycle? What do I need to let go of? And what is this new cycle bringing me? Or something like that. I have pulled a card for us for this week. So I've got this really beautiful new deck called the Seed and Sickle. And these are the backs of the cards. They are absolutely gorgeous. And our card for this week is Lily of the Valley. And I'm just going to read this out. So this is the card here. So the Lily of the Valley card emphasizes the importance of looking beyond appearances and understanding the true nature of things before making decisions. It warns against being deceived by surface attractiveness, as what appears valuable might be harmful, and vice versa. The card also highlights the importance of seizing opportunities and being bold enough to express desires and intentions. It draws on the legend of the lily's unspoken love for the nightingale to illustrate how reticence can lead to missed opportunities. So what's really interesting about this card for this week, I think it's showing up super well, there we go, is we also have Neptune stationing retrograde tomorrow. And Neptune is illusion. Neptune is that kind of very dream-like quality. And so during this time of retrograde, it's sort of calling a lot of the truths of things into question. So looking at our discernment, looking at our intuition, and really checking in with how much we are taken in by other people, how we might be being deceived by things about the world, things in our relationships, maybe how we deceive ourselves, some of the limiting self-beliefs that we have. Imposter syndrome is that illusion that comes in to trick us into thinking that we shouldn't be doing what we want to do. So a really powerful time, if you think about this waning quality, which is all about intuition. It's all about really sitting with the truth of things, seeing things. If we think about insight, that inner sight, and then the final quarter moon arrives with Neptune retrograde, which is also saying, okay, let's really look at the illusions here. How have you been led up the garden path by someone or some situation? And it calls a lot into question too, the way sometimes that we hold people on pedestals. And I have had this experience so many times in my life with spiritual teachers who I have put on a pedestal, and I forget that they're human. You know, they have their own shortcomings, they have their own journey, they have their own wounds. And what happens is I get disappointed and disillusioned, but that's my projection. It's not their fault. They're doing their best with what they have. And oftentimes it's how we have put somebody in a certain position and how sometimes we put people in positions of power over us. Yes, we can say sometimes too that people have deliberately acted in ways to create a power dynamic. But we can also look at the ways in which we do that too. I give my power away, or I view somebody in a particular way that disempowers me. So all of these questions we're going to take a few months now to think about as Neptune journeys through its retrograde, but really interesting time. And I love how this comes in at the second half of the year, where we can start to digest and understand the journey that we've been on through the first half of the year, and just start to check in with some of the patterns and some of the themes that we probably know in our gut are common threads for us, common challenges, common patterns of behavior, where we go, oh yeah, I've done it again. I've put someone on a pedestal. They failed to be perfect and I've gotten disappointed. How can I begin to heal this pattern of behavior? How can I start to trust my own magic more, trust my own voice more, trust my own truth more? It's a really powerful energy this week, very watery, very liminal. I was going to go and harvest some mugwort for this time, but it's not quite ready. So where I am here in the studio in Cleverley, there's this incredible hedgerow. You go up the road and turn right down this amazing lane that's just all hedgerow. And I've just popped there this morning and it's full of butterflies and bees and insects and tall grass, and the blackberries are just starting to ripen. The mugwort is really tall, but not yet in flower. And it's always best where we can, if we're harvesting plants for magical use, medicinal use, to let them come into their fullness before we take them. So the flowers are just about to appear. So maybe next week I'll be able to harvest some mugwort for the dark moon, and I will share it with you. I did, however, manage to get some mallow. So I've got loads of mallow that I am drying at home. We have an abundance that grows. I love it. It grows between the slabs on the front garden. But here in the hedgerows, there was some. So I've just got some mallow to dry here. The flowers are gorgeous. They turn into this really beautiful dark purple, and the leaves can be used for lots of things. They're edible. They can be made into tinctures and teas. And I'll be using this in some incense, but I'm also going to be using the leaves as a tincture, and also to make into a salve as well. So mallow is incredibly soothing and healing for the skin. And then internally, it's brilliant for those really dry throats and coughs that you can get in the autumn and winter. So yeah, mallow, really, really beautiful. I think it's going to be the next plant that I'm going to do in my grimoire as well. So stay tuned for that one. So this is going to go and hang up here in the kitchen. So the other thing that I wanted to share with you this week, so our crystal for this week is moonstone. So I have these beautiful spheres here. So one of the other aspects of the Bridget rooms, the studio here, is this fantastic crystal shop that we have at the front. And so this is black moonstone sphere, and it has this gorgeous silvery flash to it. And then I have this beautiful white moonstone, which again has this glorious flash, more of like a silvery blue flash to it. And then I have some peach moonstone in more of like a palm stone in a heart shape. And then tiny little temple stone. So however you like to work with moonstone, it is fantastic for connecting to the cycles of life. So it resonates with the moon, so perfect for Cancer season. Cancer is ruled by the moon, but also all of this yin feminine energy that I'm talking about for the week ahead. So we're looking at Neptune, water, illusion, intuition, insight, dreams. We're looking at Cancer season, water, nurturance, the moon. And then we're looking at the waning, very feminine, autumnal energy. So moonstone can be really soothing. I find it a very peaceful, very soft crystal to work with, but it also supports our journey through the flow of life. So if we feel like we're resisting the flow of things, if we feel that we're not trusting in the path that we are on, and we are gripping too strongly, we're resisting, we are grasping, our heart feels quite tight, then working with moonstone and really asking it to help us soften in to the cyclical nature of life, so the understanding that there is ebb and there is flow, that nothing is permanent, and that this too shall pass. So I myself have been noticing that in myself recently, particularly related to my business, to finances and things like that. Like there is this real unclearness at the moment as to where things are going, and I am noticing the grasping, and I'm noticing that lack of trust. And resistance to flow. So I actually bought a piece of moonstone from my own shop and I've got it as a palm stone. And before bed, I'm just holding it. It's very tactile as well, the smoothness of the stone. So I've been holding that before bed and just kind of allowing it to soothe my heart and just saying, let me trust, like help me to trust, help me to be at one with the flow of life and all things. So yeah, beautiful stone to work with. And if you have some, maybe getting it out and carrying it on your person or having it on your altar. And if you don't have some, just knowing that it comes in various different shapes and sizes. You can get it as bracelets and pendants as well if you wanted to wear it. So yeah, let me know how, if you have some, if you connect and work with it already. If you buy some, let me know how it works for you and how this week's video has landed for you. So wrapping up there this time, trying to keep it short and sweet. So yes, waning moon. Release. If you're releasing, don't forget to replace intentionally the energy. Make time and space for your intuition. Make time and space for your processing of the moon cycle. And start to think ahead to the new moon in Cancer and what you want from that new cycle. And I'll be back next week for the Witchy Week Ahead, and we'll be looking at the dark moon and the new moon in Cancer. Thank you so much for tuning in. It would be amazing if you don't already, if you can subscribe to my channel. It helps me build my channel, helps me support these free offerings, but also it means you get notified every time I create a new video. And there's going to be more things coming for the channel as well. So I'm going to be putting up some more meditations and some more yoga practices as well. Lammas is coming up, so I'm going to be creating some content to celebrate first harvest as well. And don't forget to check out my Patreon as well, which is where all my free blogs and I put all my podcasts on there too. I'll put the links to everything underneath this video, but thank you so much for joining me. Waning moon blessings to you all, and I will see you next week.